Hey guys, welcome back. Once again, another beautiful day on the range. Really enjoying this vitamin D because we don't get a whole lot of it up here in Montana during the winter time, so enjoy it while you can, I guess. Today's going to be a fun little episode. It's going to be a departure from my usual reloading for the 6.8 and some long range shooting. It's actually going to cover the suppressor that I'm using, and that's the Gunwerks 6. I've had this for 6 or 7 months now, and I've used it on a couple different platforms, and I feel like I've got enough field use with it to give you guys kind of a no bullshit review on what my thoughts are with it. So today we're just gonna do I'm gonna put it on my 556, my Christensen Arms 556, and I'll let you guys see how it sounds suppressed and unsuppressed, and then I'll put it on my 6.8 Western and we'll shoot some suppressed and unsuppressed. I did pick up a box of the copper impacts Winchesters 162s. I want to shoot these through this today, or shoot this through this rifle today, and then I'll be using this ammo for a couple other videos that I had in mind. So I'll talk about that later in the video. For the ammo I'm shooting is just some reloads that I have. They're 55 grain hollow points. So I'm going to shoot a couple rounds unsuppressed, and I'll put the suppressor on, shoot a couple rounds. That way you guys can get a side-by-side comparison of how it sounds. I don't have any sound metering, so I guess take my word for it, and I guess you use your guys' audio to kind of form your own opinion on the matter. So. All right, here's a couple rounds suppressed. I actually traded my SCAR off for this thing, and it's a 16-inch barrel. It's a beautiful rifle. It's got a carbon fiber barrel in it, real nice. I just got a Trijicon 1-4. I'll do a couple more here, just without hearing protection. Sounds pretty good. It's a little loud back at the shooter's ear, just because it's a gas gun, and so you're gonna get a little gas pop back at the ejection port, but night and day difference. I wouldn't be able to shoot that with hearing protection on, so the suppressor really does help tremendously. I apologize for the wind noise. It's a little breezy out, but we'll do it anyway. So I brought out my lower receiver that I built up. It's a pistol lower. I put a rare B trigger in it, so it's just a really fast semi-automatic trigger. It's not full auto. I don't have the third position on the lower receiver. It's just safe and semi. But for those that don't know what a rare B trigger is, it's just a forced reset trigger. It allows the shooter to shoot really fast in semi-auto. So it simulates full auto, but it's not full auto. The reason why I wanted to do that, because Gunwerks doesn't rate this as a full auto suppressor. It says that it doesn't say that on their website, but it says that on the Silencer Shop website. And that's where I purchased this suppressor through, was with Silencer Shop. So I'm gonna run, I don't know, 15 rounds through it, just really fast, and just get the suppressor hot, and show you that it's a pretty stout can, and when push comes to shove, you probably could use it as like a limited full auto suppressor, but yeah, that worked really well. Just a really nice can. I didn't have any ringing in my ears after that string of fire. Yeah, it just works really well on this platform. So let me change out to my 6.8 Western, and I'll shoot some with the 6.8, and you guys can get a side-by-side comparison with that.
Just forewarning, I got back to the reloading room and I've found out that the wind was really bad in the video clips. So just really focus on the recoil impulse that you see with the suppressed and unsuppressed shots. And I think you guys will be able to see a really quantitative difference between the recoil impulse that I'm feeling on my shoulder. And then I'll roll in some video clips from some previous videos that I shot suppressed and unsuppressed, and those had really good audio quality. So you guys should be able to get a much better representation that the Gunwerks 6 suppressor makes on this rifle.
All right, we're at the 6.8. I got the 162 copper impacts. I'll shoot 2 unsuppressed, and we'll do 2 suppressed. look at the recoil too. There's a lot of recoil without the suppressor, and with the suppressor on, really calms down the recoil. All right, here's two suppressed. So much softer shooting. Hey guys, we're back at the reloading room and out of the wind. Real quickly, I want to thank you guys for your patience. I don't upload videos like really frequently, maybe like once a month. And that's because this channel is just a hobby of mine. I'm not sponsored by anybody, and so all the ammo that I shoot, all the reloading components that I buy, all the components that went into my my 6.8 Western build, were all money out of my own pocket. So I'm not, it's just a hobby of mine. It's not my full-time job. My full-time job, I'm a paramedic full-time, and then I have a business teaching CPR classes on the side. So though between those two things and kind of switching between other hobbies, that kind of consumes my time. So that's why I don't upload to the channel all that often. But when I do, I really appreciate your guys' input and your questions, and I'm really excited to kind of build the 6.8 Western community a little bit more, and just bringing you guys some of my thoughts. And it doesn't go unnoticed. I'm going to be uploading a few more videos here in the next month or two. One with some accuracy testing with those 162 copper impacts now that I have a suppressor. And because the previous video I did it without a suppressor and I didn't get the best results, so I wanted to see if a suppressor would help my results with that. And it seems like that that ammo, the 162s, those copper impacts, are pretty available out on the consumer market. So it seems like people may have access to those more than some of the other factory offerings that's the Browning and Winchester have been coming out with. So, and then the other one I wanted to do was just like a terminal ballistics into like some water or some gel with the Berger 170s, the Nosler ballistic tips, and those copper impacts. So if you guys want to see some of that, definitely subscribe. That'll be coming in within the next couple months. So subscribe and turn that notification bell on so you guys can stay up to date with that. With that being said, just grab your favorite beer, grab your coffee. Let's get into some of the tabletop discussions on the suppressor. And yeah, just sit back, relax, and enjoy your beverage. Let's get into it. Hopefully you guys were kind of able to hear the difference and see the difference in recoil and the sound difference on those two different platforms, the semi-auto and the bolt action. If you guys have been following the channel for a while, you'll know that the suppressor ultimately has made a huge difference, and for what it's designed for, it does very well in that regard. So speaking of like sound quality, if you guys thought it sounded all right but it wasn't like mind-blowingly awesome, keep this in mind. It's a 6-inch can, so it's pretty short, and it only has a 1.5-inch internal diameter. So you can only get so much internal volume for you to trap the hot gases to make it sound really good. And I'll compare that to my Sig Sauer SRD 762. This thing's a tank. This is like 7 inches long. It's got like a 1.67-inch diameter. So the internal volume, I have the reducer out of this, the end cap, so don't worry. So the internal volume on the Sig is just massively bigger, and so it's going to sound a lot better on a lot of different calibers. I had this on my 308. I still have it on my 308 hunting rifle, and it just does really well, you know, with subsonic and supersonic 308. And that's just because it has a really big internal volume. And speaking of which, I could shoot this thing all day long on my 308 and not wear hearing protection. It's great. With this guy, I could shoot. I've had days where I've shot like 30 or 40 rounds out of the rifle, so just some extended range sessions with the 6.8. And about halfway through, I've had to put on some hearing protection because it gets a little uncomfortable. But that's not to say that, you know, like today's shooting session that we had We shot 5 rounds. Absolutely no problem with not needing to wear hear protection. Just fine. And even when you're out shooting, like out hunting, and you got to take 1 or 2 shots on your animal, or whatever it be, you're not going to need hearing protection. It's very comfortable to shoot, but just keep in mind that if you do have sensitive ears and you don't have hearing loss yet, if you do shoot this can on some of the bigger bore rifles, you might need to wear hearing protection just because it might not be as comfortable to shoot versus a can that has a larger internal volume. So take that for what it's worth. Overall, this thing does very well for what it was designed for. Once again, it was designed for lightweight backpack use, precision rifle, and that's what Gunwerks really designed it for. And it really does excel really well in those areas. Now, you're gonna be like, is there a barrel length restriction on the suppressor? And yes and no. So Gunwerks on their website, they're really vague on some of the details they provide. They don't provide a barrel length restriction. They don't provide, what else do they don't provide? They don't provide like full auto rating. So when I bought this can, I did a lot of research, and a lot of the stuff, a lot of the information I got was from Silencer Shop. And on Silencer Shop's website, it says the minimum Magnum barrel length is 16 inches, and they rate this can up to 300 Remington Ultra Mag. It doesn't have a 5.56 barrel length restriction. It doesn't advertise a 300 blackout barrel length restriction. So if you want to put this on a short barreled rifle or a pistol with a short barrel, maybe call up Gunwerks and ask them if that's cool to do so, or maybe do it on, you can tread that territory, kind of bust some new territory yourself and see if it works or not. But I have not tried it on any of my shorty 5.56s, just a 16-inch 5.56. It also says it's not full auto rated. It doesn't say that on the Gunwerks website, but it does say that on the Silencer Shop's website that it's not full auto rated. I was really curious of that because it's a stainless steel can and it has a taper mount. Usually taper mounts are really is a good solid mount. I would say it's not as solid as the SIGs that has a taper mount and a locking collar on it. So it's like so you have like a dual locking system. So you can shoot this thing full auto all day long. It's not going to walk off. To where for the taper mount, it could. Although Griffin Armament, they use taper mounts on, I think, pretty much all their suppressors. And I think all their suppressors, if not most of them, are full auto rated. So it makes me believe that, a taper mount and stainless steel construction can be full auto rated. I should also say that this is stainless steel as well, but this is just like, it's a thicker stainless steel. So, maybe this is probably a little bit more, this is more heavy duty than this. But anyway, I did call up Gunwerks before I purchased the suppressor, and I asked them, hey, like, is it true this can's not full auto rated? And from what I remember, they were like, we did test it on an M240. I think it was the M240 saw. And they said, or if it wasn't that, they did do an extensive full auto test on it. And they said it held up very well. But they really didn't rate it as full auto. I don't know why. If you guys want to call them up and ask them, or if you guys are going to buy the suppressor, maybe you guys can dive into that information a little bit more. But I bought this can knowing I probably wouldn't be shooting it full auto because I've got, because I don't have a full auto to begin with. I do have the rare breed, which is like simulated full auto, but it's just really fast semi-auto. And I was more than likely going to use this can most of the time for that. But as you can see from the video, it worked really well on the 16-inch 5.56. And I know it was a very short string of fire. It was like 15 or 16 rounds. I have had this out on the range in the past on the CA556, and I've put 60 to 90 rounds, just a few mag dumps through it. And yeah, this thing gets hot, but it did just fine. So like 90 rounds of, forced reset shooting, it held up just fine. There wasn't any melting. There were no baffle strikes. There was no discoloration in the Cerakote. So that leads me to believe that it's a pretty stout can. If you guys wanted to pick up the suppressor for, a similar application like me, to where you're using it for mainly bolt action purposes, but you want to, dive into putting it on a different gun host and shoot it semi-automatic and use it with a rare breed trigger, it'll work just fine. The weight of the suppressor is where it shines, and the suppressor by itself weighs 10.9 ounces. You can call it 11 ounces if you want. The muzzle adapter that threads onto the barrel and interfaces with the suppressor weighs 1.5 ounces. I don't have one free to throw it on the scale, but I did weigh it prior to when I first got the suppressor. I unboxed it. I weighed just the mounting adapter by itself, and it was 1.5 ounces. So you're looking at like 12.5 ounces for the entire kit. Throw a suppressor cover on it, and you're at like 14.5 ounces. So, nonetheless, a pretty lightweight can for what it is. Just real quick with the suppressor cover. This is a Gunwerks. It's made by Coltac. Coltac and Gunwerks, they collaborated and made this. I bought it because it looked cool and I liked it. However, I do notice that with sustained like bolt action fire and even semi-auto, even though this thing's cranked on there pretty well, it's a pretty tight fit. I do notice sometimes it likes to walk off at the end, or like it starts to work its way off the end of the suppressor. So if that's a concern for you guys, I would recommend picking up an Armageddon gear suppressor cover. It uses I don't know, it's like a tightening system on it, and you can get this collar to seat kind of at the base of the suppressor, and you crank it down with this tightening tab, and it locks it into place, and it does not come off. It's a real nice fit, and I've tried this one with my rare breed trigger and with sustained simulated full auto fire, and it doesn't come off. It's a great suppressor. This one's a high temp, so this one holds up the heat a lot better, and this suppressor cover is not a high temp, so if you're gonna use this suppressor with a rare breed trigger or a force reset trigger and get this thing really hot, you are gonna melt this suppressor cover. So I would recommend getting a high temp suppressor cover, and if that's not a big deal for you, you're just gonna be using the suppressor for backpack use, bolt action use, and just really light use in that matter, this suppressor cover will work fine for you. But if you want to step up to something a little bit more heavy duty and that won't come off and you don't have to worry about putting it back on or making sure that it stays on, I would definitely recommend a suppressor cover that has some sort of locking mechanism to keep it on the suppressor a little better. Right, getting into another feature, and that is the interchangeable end caps. Gunwerks calls this the reducer system. And essentially, you can take the end caps and you can swap them out to smaller diameters if you're shooting a smaller diameter bullet. For example, the can came with a 30 caliber end cap, and so I shot the 30 caliber for a little while, and then I decided to get a 7mm reducer, and it threads right in, just to see if there was a difference between the 30 cal and the 7mm. Essentially, their thought was with a smaller hole at the end, you're able to trap more gases, therefore making the suppressor a little bit more quiet. However, I didn't find any measurable difference between like sound difference between a 30 cal and a 7mm end cap. So, in my opinion, maybe just save the 25 bucks and just run a 30 caliber end cap. That's kind of what I've got going on with that. To change them out though, they're really simple. You just need a 3/8 Allen key, and you pop it on, and they twist off. You can put the other one on, and there's no Loctite needed. And just spin it down, give it a good little torque, not much needed, and it's good to go. Okay, now you're probably thinking, okay, well, if I do get a 7mm and and I accidentally put it on a rifle that's a 30 cal, is it going to destroy my suppressor? I don't know, because I haven't shot it that way before. However, this is a 30 caliber bullet at 168 VLD. It does fit through the 7mm end cap, and it's got a little wiggle room in it. So that leads me to believe that if you do accidentally leave it on, the bullet probably would go through there. I haven't tested it, and I don't want to test it because I don't have any need to. But if you do leave that on, it looks like it would fit through there. That being said, the 30 cal end cap does have a lot more room for that bullet to come out. So if your bullet, leaves the end of the suppressor, not completely concentric, it has a little wiggle room, so it doesn't have a end cap strike. A couple more things before I close out this video. The suppressor does come with 2 mounts, so it'll come with a 5/8 by 24 and a 1/2 by 28. So right out of the box, you're able to throw the suppressor on any host that has those thread patterns. So you don't have to worry about buying an extra one. And then with the bore reducers, they do make, this is a 7mm, but they do also make a 6mm, a 6.5mm, and a 22 caliber reducer. So if you guys do want to, try those out yourself, you can order those right off the Gunwerks website and see if those work out for your application. With that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys' continued support. And if you guys have any questions that I didn't cover on the suppressor, feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll be around to answer them. Once again, thanks guys. Have a great night.